Bloodsworn,
Battlegrim,
Raven Feeders.
lend us your spears. Welcome back to the Brothers Gwynne channel. Today we'll be talking about what books you should read if you enjoyed Shadow of the Gods, and if you want a bit more of that taste of the culture and the inspiration and that kind of feel, the atmosphere, the vibe of the Shadow of the Gods.
Yeah, the whole vibe of that Viking raiding, pillaging, murdering thing. You know,
Very
if you're
light-hearted.
after that, then we're going to help you guys out. Now, it has actually been quite tricky trying to choose some books that are like this, because to us, we feel like the Shadow of the Gods, there's nothing really similar to it out there.
No.
We can talk about the influences and also, you know, what has inspired Dad when he's writing this, what he's read, try and help, you know, a little bit of research, that kind of thing, and stuff that we've read as Viking reenactors, because it is very Viking-centered societies within this.
Yes.
But we've given it our best shot. We've got some fantasy, we've got some historical fiction, we've got contemporary texts, ones written in the period, and yeah.
Well, I think we should just get into talking about it.
I reckon we should get straight into it.
If Philip Chase watches this, I'm sure he'll be giving us a lot more that we've not really explored.
Yeah, Philip, if you do watch this, we would love to see any more of your recommendations in the comments below, if you wouldn't mind.
That we would.
Because we always want to broaden our horizons.
And Philip Chase is the man for that.
Is the man.
Do check out his channel if you've not. It's very educational as well. It's talking about books as well. He knows far more than us. So
yeah, you can say that again.
I learn every single video. I learn so much, and it's in such an entertaining
and he
way.
wears a blazer all the time. It's very
The
smart.
smartest
And he's a
booktuber.
lovely chap as well. So what's not to like?
There we go. So Ed, what is the first book you're going to show?
The first one is The Whale Road by Robert Lowe. Now, this series is called The Oathsworn. It is a historical fiction, and in my opinion, it was probably my favourite Viking historical fiction.
You love this.
I will say why. Because this focuses on... Right, we've seen The Last Kingdom, we've read The Last Kingdom. That's all about England in the Dark Ages. But this is all about how Vikings go and see other cultures, such as in Turkey and all across Europe, in the Rusland, so Russia. The Whale Road is so good. I think Robert Lowe has a real taste and a craft for creating this Viking world. And it feels very authentic. It feels like he knows exactly how Vikings would be talking. He was a Viking reenactor as well. Unfortunately, he passed away a couple of months ago. Very sad. But he's left us these amazing books, so I'd definitely go out and grab these. But yeah, The Whale Road is a really, really good start to it. They do get better and better. And the last one, The Proud Beast, is my favourite. But I love how they feel fresh in a Viking-centred historical fiction area of those books.
And it strips away a lot of the romanticism, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. There's no romanticism. It's like, if you like Joe Abercrombie, I think you'll really, really like this. I think Joe Abercrombie actually recommended reading Robert Lowe.
Oh, did he?
In Crowbone for when he was researching the Shattered Sea.
The Shattered Sea trilogy, yeah.
He's got that Viking influence as well. But yeah, lots of Old Norse stuff here. Lots of stuff that you won't really pick up from authors unless they've actually tried it and done all this kind of stuff. So if you like Dad's writing, where he's talking about the battles, and, you know, what it actually feels like, and, you know, the training, and also the gear and all of the clothing and the food and the boats, there's just another layer, which Robert Lowe gets great as well, which does a really good job of, because he knows about it all. So yeah, recommend this.
And I deliberated, we both did, putting in Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology, but we think that if you are interested, and if you already know the Norse tales, I wouldn't really recommend Neil Gaiman's Norse mythology. If it's the first time you're being acquainted with them, I'd say he's fantastic, but I think that's kind of a repeat if you already know them. So I would recommend Joanne M. Harris's work, The Gospel of Loki, which is a clever, witty, hilarious twist that shows all the tales but from Loki's perspective, and that just makes every single one entertaining in such a different way. And I think that Papa Gwynne put a lot of humour into The Shadow of the Gods, despite the overall severe tone.
Yeah.
And I think that the
grim darkiness.
The same happens here in The Gospel of Loki. You know at the end what's going to happen, Ragnarok, but it's about how do we get there, how is Loki affected, how do people interact with him and react around him. So yeah, I'd say that The Gospel of Loki by Joanne M. Harris is really fantastic, and listening to it on Audible, it was a really great experience as well.
Yeah, I think Joanne Harris has got the humour there And I think Dad's got quite a bit of humour, quite a humorous streak within the Shadow of the Gods as well, don't you? So yeah, I think that's a really good recommendation. On to my next one then. I recently read this actually, and it's by Neil Price, and it's called The Children of Ash and Elm. Now this is a comprehensive guide for beginners, journeymen, apprentices, experts. Everyone can take something away from this, and it's about the history of the Vikings. It's called The Children of Ash and Elm because the story was that the first humans were carved from ash and elm, and you can see the similarity there: Ash, Adam, Elm, Eve. That's not a mistake, I don't think. But Neil Price is, I believe he's a professor at Uppsala Museum in Sweden. So he's, very hot on his knowledge. He is an archaeologist as well, so he's been doing digs as well, that kind of thing. So I got a lot out of this when I listened to it. I did listen to this on Audible. But yeah, so if you want to, find out about the Vikings from how they began as, the Angles, the Saxons, the Jutes. Well, if you want to find out about Lindisfarne, and if you want to find out as well about how they, like I was mentioning with Robert Lowe, how they go on down to Turkey, to what was Constantinople, what is now Istanbul, and all of the evidence. I love that he talks about the evidence, and he also gives some of his own judgments, which just make you think a little bit about how we perceive Vikings as a culture, as a people, and how really, Vikings doesn't really sum up who they were, what they stood for. And it mentions lots of the different characters that you might hear about in history. So yeah, Children of Ash and Elm by Neil Price.
There we go. And the next one is called A Choice of Anglo-Saxon Verse. I was very lucky to be introduced to this by one of my teachers at college during my English literature studies. I was doing kind of a deep dive into Old English texts, and he said that this is probably the most authentic and most well translated collection of Anglo-Saxon poetry out there. And so we've got things from the Battle of Maldon, which is a very famous poem, all the way to the Wanderer and the Seafarer, which are also very well known. What I loved specifically reading these is seeing this is the source material for so many works that we know today. There's in the Wanderer, I believe it says word bith fullaread, and that is Bernard Cornwell's phrase for
fate is inexorable.
Fate is inexorable, destiny is all. Uhtred of Bebbanburg. There we go. And also,
you say something that rhymed with destiny.
No, that's your part. And then in Lord of the Rings, Theoden's speech, "Where now the rider, where the horse," also from the Wanderer. He altered it slightly to fit, but that was 100 definitely. It's too similar to not be inspired by that.
Nice.
And there are so many little references that it's just I was like, oh my word, and so
you're like, what?
Oh my word. I can't believe you made me do that again.
I'm sorry.
Yes, it's just very exciting finding the source material of authors who you really admire and the texts that you love. And also on their own, I think that these are just really fantastic poems overall. There's some riddles, which I think inspired Riddles in the Dark. And they're just so witty, and I think it's just a really brilliant mix. So I would definitely recommend getting this, A Choice of Anglo-Saxon Verse.
So why do you think that this one would be enjoyable for people who have read Dad's book?
I think it's enjoyable because a lot of it shares a lot of the cultural values about what people valued. Obviously, these are from the contemporary period.
Yeah.
So a lot of it relates to what they saw as important. There's a lot of glorification of violence, but that's, as you can see, the sagas, the tales.
Typical Anglo-Saxons.
But as I said, there's a whole range. There's riddles, the Battle of Maldon, the Wanderer, the Seafarer. You see that there's a very philosophical side as well. It's not, as you were saying, that I think this exposes that there wasn't just about, okay, we'll raid this place, we'll raid this place.
Oh, no culture's that simple.
Exactly.
It's just what you get pigeonholed as people find out. They watch TV, you watch Vikings, and you don't see that side of them, do you? So
exactly.
Yeah, I think reading those period texts, which I'll mention again in a second, really gives you another understanding, another layer, and also I think you enjoy it all the more as well, because you feel like you actually know something that these people, what they actually were there for, what they wanted out of life. And Norse mythology and these period texts that you read that were written in the era are so quirky, aren't they? They're filled with humour, they're filled with lots of gravitas as well, so they're really enjoyable to read. Yeah,
and I'd say that the advantage of poetry is that you can just flicker through, see what grabs your attention, and it's only a few pages long. And in this, on one side it has the translation, and then it has the original text as well. So it's very interesting seeing maybe some words that are similar, what has been subverted into what we know today.
Who knows, you might start speaking Old English by
just
the end of
without even meaning to. Maybe.
Maybe.
So there we go.
Talking about contemporary text then, we have here, I did ask Dad, I said, Dad, what would you recommend for people to read if they enjoyed Shadow of the Gods? And he said the sagas of the Icelanders. Now, he said his favourite one is Egil's saga, all about Egil Skallagrimsson. And I think this poem, this story is attributed to Snorri Sturluson, who was, I think he was 12th, 13th century, writing about stories of the Vikings, but he got lots of his information from passed down by word of mouth. So they might have changed over the ages, but he's still got that that feeling there. He's still writing
the root
from a Scandinavian's point of view. Exactly, it's right. It's like someone writing romanticisms about Arthur, isn't it?
Yeah.
After the period, you still get another level of appreciation if you read that. So Egil's saga within this is fantastic. It's got so much fun. The quirky characters are just hilarious, and there's so many different things that happen that you just think this is so Norse. By the end of it, you'll have a really decent grasp of what it meant to be Old Norse, and because they're just so random, and it does feel like it's real life, because it's life isn't simple, is it? It's very convoluted. Sadly. And it's just interweaving threads, and it's a lot of fun. It's really sad as well. There are heartbreaking moments, and it's told very matter of factly, but it's really good fun. So I definitely recommend the Saga of the Icelanders.
There we go. And the next I'm going to talk about is J.R.R. Tolkien's translation of Beowulf. J.R.R. Tolkien was a teacher at university, a lecturer. One of the dons.
What did he write? Narnia. That's it. Sorry, it's sacrilege. Don't even joke about it.
That should not be joked about. Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit.
It's going to be big. It's going to be big.
And I think that this is really fantastic. I think that in a minute I will talk about maybe the translation that's a bit more accessible, but if you've already read Beowulf, or the tale, or you feel a bit more well versed in the Old English language and the translations, I would definitely advise Tolkien's translation of Beowulf. I think that also, I haven't got it with me, but to extension of that, if you read Tolkien's essay it's called Beowulf, the Monsters and the Critics, and many say it's the most influential essay of the 20th century, because it showed a different lens on Beowulf, how the monsters are portrayed, and the impact of that, and how...
By Tolkien,
by Tolkien.
Oh, cool. Excellent.
And so he was really a leading figure in advancing knowledge of Beowulf and the exploration of the language. And so it's meant to be one of the most reliable and most accurate translations. And it's just so much on Beowulf, obviously relating it again to the Shadow of the Gods, is... Old Norse. Beowulf is one of the texts that we know about the most. Many people, so many people have heard of Beowulf, even if you've not read it. It's probably the most well-known Old English.
And how is it similar to Shadow of the Gods? Monster hunters.
Exactly.
Jarls, crews of people aboard a ship, going out, and it's so fantastical, isn't it?
It really
it's got
is.
the sense of wonder within it. And the next one is called Valkyrie by Johanna Katrin. Now, Johanna Katrin is a Viking Age researcher focusing on the lives of women and the portrayal of women within the old text, as well as looking at the facts, looking at the evidence, as well as the physical artifacts and all that kind of stuff as well. So the reason why I said that this would be a good book to read if you like Shadow of the Gods is the female-centered approach within this, which is, it is a non-fiction, but it really sheds so much light on women in the Viking Age and how they should really be perceived. It goes across all of the misconceptions that people believe today. Obviously, lots of our research was from the 30s, 1930s, 1920s, 1940s as well, and stuff that was assumed back then isn't actually correct. People have found that wasn't correct, that stuff's correct. Talking about the graves in Birka, where they are actually found to be female graves, where people just assumed they were males because they had lots of war equipment in there as well. So you like Orca, you like Elvar, then you're going to find out a lot about how Dad kind of constructed those characters. And he doesn't, you don't read them, I don't think anyway, me personally, you don't read Shadow of the Gods and you think, this is a female character, he's trying to do this with her. it just feels like they're a character,
Yeah.
you know, and it's a very equal society, which
Exactly.
is, you know, women had a lot of rights. So I won't say go into any more, but yeah, I would definitely really recommend this. It even has Neil Price on the back saying you should read this. So Viking scholars, check it out.
And as
Check
I
it
talked,
out now.
and as I talked about a few minutes ago, here is another translation of Beowulf. This is by Seamus Heaney. I read this before I read Tolkien's translation. It's not as accurate, but it's the same story, of course, and it is more accessible. So if you're just kind of starting out, you love Shadow of the Gods, and you think, I want a bit more, but I'm a bit tentative to go into all of these Old English texts, I would go into Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf. Seamus Heaney is a fantastic poet. If you've not read anything by him before, really do go check him out. He was the Poet Laureate, wasn't he? I think. Yes, he was. And Beowulf is really fantastic, and it's amazing. I loved it. I don't think something has to be 100% accurate for you to love it, but it's great to be able to compare.
You get the gist.
Yeah,
It's got a dragon, so yeah, it's basically.
But it's great to be able to compare Tolkien's to Seamus Heaney's, because you also see the differences and what relates between them as well. So I said why Beowulf is similar to Shadow of the Gods before. Well, we did, and so there you go, Seamus Heaney's translation of Beowulf.
Very nice, thank you, Will.
Boom.
Moving on then, this is, I think, my favourite non-fiction about Vikings at the moment, and it's called Vikings at War by Kim Hjarda and Vegard Vik. Yeah, it's fantastic. It really goes into so much depth about Vikings at war. Obviously, that's the title, but the level of detail within these books is phenomenal. There's so much colour within it. It has evidence for everything it writes about. It really is based not upon opinion, it's based upon facts. And also what I love is it goes into all of the period authentic language for the items that they would use. It goes into a basic history as well for the Vikings. Talks about how the ships were made, how shields would be made, all of the different kennings in Old Norse literature that would be used for swords and spears and whatnot. Shows you the different. It's just a whole new layer that is so extremely detailed. So if you like reading about Vikings, then this will really open your eyes. But also, Neil Price is on the back of this as well, saying this is everywhere. The best synthesis of Viking warfare ever produced. Clear, authoritative, occasionally controversial, and superbly illustrated. Perfect. So obviously Dad's books there's lots of conflicts within them, lots of battles and war, and some of it is based on experience and our reenactment, but a lot of it is based on reading the text and finding out about stuff, and reading books like this which sheds a lot of light on the situations. So it talks about how to use the weapons and the different words and just everything, so all those details that an author would be thinking of, they're all in here, and I'd really recommend this because it's a lot of fun to read, and it's so informative. Yeah, it really is. It manages to give you so much information whilst not being dry at the same time. It's about striking that balance. Yeah, absolutely. And now this is the last one I have in my pile. I think there's got a few more. And this is Vessen by Johan Egerkrans. He's a fantastic illustrator. And if you remember in Shadow of the Gods, the creatures, and there's a wide array from people basically tooth fairies to trolls, and a lot of these are inspired by Vessen, which you can find in this. I'm going to flick to, let me just find a page. Why don't you talk about why Johan Egerkrans actually did the artwork for the Swedish versions of Lord of the Rings, so there's lots of artwork out there that people I love looking at. I think his illustrations are top notch. Vessen, obviously this is one of Dad's research books, and he came up with a lot of animals, a lot of inspiration from these books. You've got pictures here that if you read about the books, you're not too sure what they look like, then go out and grab this book, because it will again shed a lot of light on the details and the animals that Dad uses within his books. Yeah, this is a Spertus, which you may recognise from the Shadow of the Gods, and so maybe if you get this by Vessen, and you can have it accompanying you whilst you're reading through the Shadow of the Gods, or the sequel. It's a beautiful book, isn't it? It's lovely. Lovely. Okay, it's beautiful. It's not lovely because there's a lot of these creatures may put you off your dinner, wouldn't they? Maybe. Yeah. Look at that. That actually looks quite cute. The troll actually looks quite cute. And you can buy these pictures on Johan's website. So we've got a couple, haven't we? So definitely
we
check
do.
them out.
Yeah, so Vesson is really great. It's really fun to flick through, and as you saw, there's also writing talking about these creatures as well as a picture to accompany.
Yeah. All these old creatures are in
What
Scandinavian folklore. So.
They are. So what more could you ask for? I wasn't expecting an answer. That was rhetorical.
It's rhetorical. And the last book for me is called Viking Weapons and Combat Techniques. Now, this is Witten. The Witten. There you go. Anglo-Saxon, isn't it? This is written by William Short, and he is the author of the Herstwick website, which is a Viking reenactment group in North America, I believe. So if you want to find out about Viking combat just to the next level, where it literally goes through step by step how to do, some of the moves, some of the evidence, and the sources as well, and comparisons of all the weapons, how to use your shields, how to hold your sword in the first place, then this is excellent, groundbreaking. It's applied archaeology, it's experimental archaeology, where you're trying to work out, based on the clues that you have, how they would have used their weapons. And I think it's probably my favourite one out there. It's quite similar to Dimmercarter, Roland Warshecker's style as well of teaching, and I really enjoy that. It's based on opinions and their experiences as well as just archaeology, because we can't you can't read about the Battle of Maldon and it doesn't tell you how they would hold the sword. You have to figure it out based on the archaeology. Unfortunately, we can't do a night at the museum and create a waxwork and then make them alive and talk to them. But oh well, I imagine you wouldn't want to make Attila the Hun alive again, would you? So
well, I think he's misunderstood.
Say it to his wife. So yeah, that's the final book for our list. So what you should read if you like Shadow of the Gods.
So there we are. That is a list. We hope that there's quite a wide array there, that there's at least something for you.
Yeah.
So we've talked about from novels to from Gospel of Loki, and we've said Norse mythology, didn't put that in here, but Norse mythology as well, to a selection of poems, to the contemporary texts of the real stuff, and also Vesson by Hans Egerkrans. Johannes Egerkrans. And so there we go. I hope that if you enjoy the Shadow of the Gods, that you'll go and read some of these texts. Maybe it'd be a good idea to do it before a reread of the Shadow of the Gods, or if you're reading it for the first time, or to go through these before you get to the sequel, which will come out next year. So there we go. I think that's everything from us today. Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed. We definitely enjoyed talking about them.
So much fun.
So there we go. Shadow of the Gods by Papa Gwynne. Hope you do try it out. And for now, stay safe. The Brothers Gwynne.
Truth and courage.
Truth and courage.